Hi, Everett Rankin here, and today I'm going to talk to you about the cognitive learning theory and a two-step learning process within the theory which I guarantee will enable teachers of grades K through 5 to greatly enhance their students' learning abilities. First, let me start off by telling you a little about the cognitive learning theory, which states that learning requires cognition, or the influence of an organism's thought processes. While the theory is relatively new, it became very popular in experimental psychology in the 1960s. The study of cognition has been around for a long time. Gestalt psychologists, meaning an organized whole in German, were at the forefront of cognitive psychology, studying with great interest how the human mind tried to force a pattern on stimuli in the world around a person. In particular, Gestalt psychologists Edward Tolman and Wolfgang Kohler, as well as modern psychologist Martin Seligman, had a highly influential impact on the cognitive learning theory that we know and use today. Let's start with the first process in the cognitive learning theory that I will talk about, called latent learning, founded by Dr. Edward Tolman. Dr. Tolman set up a month-long experiment in which he created a maze and put 3 separate groups of mice in the maze at different times in order to figure out how long it would take them to learn the maze and escape based on the presence of a stimulus, in this case food. The first group of mice received food every time they managed to find their way out. The second group only received food on the 10th day instead of every time they managed to escape. And the third group, the control, never received any food, no matter how many times they escaped. Tolman found that the second group of mice, who only received food on the 10th day, were still able to immediately find their way out of the maze once food became present, but tended to wander aimlessly in the absence of food. Tolman then came to the realization that the mice had formed a cognitive map of the maze, which they would use in the presence of food. Otherwise, they would just wander around because they had no incentive to escape. He called this latent learning because of the mice's ability to immediately escape from the maze when there was an incentive, or wander around aimlessly when there wasn't. Using this experiment as an example, teachers can greatly enhance their students' ability to learn without having to reinforce them every time. For instance, if a teacher were to give a student a gold star for every 10 books that he or she reads, then that student will have an incentive to read 10 books instead of reading just one and expecting a gold star afterwards. The second process in the cognitive learning theory that I will talk about is insight learning, founded by Dr. Wolfgang Kohler. Dr. Kohler set up an experiment in which he put a monkey in a cage and had him try to retrieve a banana that was a few feet outside of his cage. After a few attempts at trying to grab the banana with his arm, the monkey took a stick that was next to him and tried to see if the stick was long enough to reach the banana, which it was. Though the monkey found that by using the stick as an extension of his arm he was able to reach the banana after a few tries, Kohler deemed this as simple trial and error. In order to find out if the monkey was capable of insight, Kohler then placed the banana even farther away from the monkey's cage, so that the stick could no longer reach it. Instead, Kohler placed another stick inside the cage which could fit into the first stick and stretch long enough to reach the banana. He wanted to see if the monkey would have the insight to be able to figure out that if he put the 2 sticks together, he would be able to reach the banana. Immediately, the monkey picked up the first stick, remembering how it reached the banana before, and tried to reach it. After about an hour, the monkey realized that the stick wasn't long enough to reach the banana. It was then that the monkey noticed the second stick. At first, he tried to reach the banana with the second stick, thinking that it was possibly longer. After that failed, the monkey then tried putting the 2 sticks together and found that once the sticks were joined, he was able to reach the banana. Kohler termed this insight learning because of the monkey's essential aha moment in which he realized that if he put 2 sticks together, then his reach will be even farther, and thus he was able to retrieve the banana. Using this experiment as an example, teachers can enhance their students' problem-solving skills, among other things, making the learning of subjects such as math much easier. And that concludes this podcast. I would like to thank you for listening, and I hope this information was useful.